Hello, it's Alex. I'm going to be talking today about my most favourite dress for the autumn, well, pretty much all year actually, that I've made in what is very possibly my most favourite fabric so far. And that is the Armidale dress that I have made in this most beautiful Atelier Jupe fabric from Lulou Designs. And just as a heads up, before I say any more, the fabric has been gifted to me by Lulou Designs. They allow me to choose a fabric kind of about once a season. As you know, if you've watched any of my channel before, I buy quite a lot of fabric from them, but this one's been gifted. And I have been lurking on their site and looking at it for pretty much as soon as they listed it. It's a fabric company that I hadn't heard of before until they started stocking it at Lulou. They seem to have a handful of designs, and the French just seem to do it so well, don't they? I think they are all predominantly viscose, not sure, but it's the quality of the designs and the prints are just beautiful. And as you'll know if you've watched any of my videos before, I've been trying to play with colour a little bit more and stick to a colour palette that's supposed to work with my colouring, and the colours in this fabric are pretty much all those colours in one print. And I just kept going back and looking at it and looking at it. So really, when it came to making something for autumn, it was a no-brainer. I knew I had to have it, really. It's the backing colour, or the background colour, is this beautiful sort of tealy, petrol-y green, which is always one of my favourites. But as I said, pretty much all the colours in here, apart from possibly the blue isn't really my blue, but it's got lots in there, and for me that's going to work really well because it means that if I do wear cardigans or jackets with it, I can pair it up with things that are going to work really well. But the fact that I love the fabric so much meant that I was really torn about what to make with it. And to be honest, mostly with this channel in mind, I kept thinking I really ought to make something different and a pattern that I haven't made before. But I just kept going back to the Armidale dress from Style Arc Patterns because, as I have said fairly recently, the versions that I made last year were my most worn me-made item of the last year. I think I made two versions, and I think it was around about December time. So they got worn through the winter with layers underneath, with tights, and I'm a big fan of chunky boots. So chunky boots, and then in the winter, obviously, short sleeves, bare legs. You know, when it's really nice and warm, I'll wear sandals. But yeah, it's kind of end of summer now, so I'm still bare legs. I'd like to say they were sort of lovely and brown and tanned, but that's never going to happen. And yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to autumn fashions. I haven't been around for a little while. I didn't do a vlog last week because my both daughters went off to university at the tail end of last week, so we were very busy getting them ready and dispatching them to different parts of the country. So it's very strange. We had 6 of us at one point in the summer for a few weeks, and now we're down to 3. It's very quiet, and there are a lot more mugs in the kitchen cupboard and a lot more clean towels in the bathroom. So now we know who the hoarders were. But since they went, I've been having a bit of a sort out, and that also included swapping my clothes over. So taking anything that was very much summery that I know I'm not going to wear for a few months and putting it away and pulling out all the big chunky jumpers. And in doing that, it made me realise that actually I've been quite good at trying to keep clothes that I can wear pretty much all year round. There are always going to be some things, you know, very strappy summery dresses that just can't be worn in the winter. But as I found out a few weeks ago when I looked at that blue camo sundress, that was also a Style Arc pattern. When I put a jumper over it, I could definitely wear that in the winter. And I'm trying to do that more and more, so that anything that I do make, anything that I've taken the time and the trouble and the effort to make, I want to try and make sure that that's going to be something that I can get as much wear out of as possible. So partly that it will go with other things in my wardrobe, but also that I can wear it year round. And that is definitely what I found with this particular shirt dress. One of the reasons that I really like it is that, well, let's be honest, it's comfortable. This is a viscose fabric, so it always feels nice and light and airy, and I am a lady of a certain age, so I do sometimes get hot and have hot flushes, and I find that I want something that's nice and breathable, and I've always found viscose to be great for me. So that works really well. And in the winter, when I do layer it up, I've got a pair of leggings that I made out of bamboo jersey. One of my daughters did steal those leggings, but she left them in her room and I've stolen them back. So I was wearing a pair of bamboo leggings and out of the same bamboo jersey, a deer and doe plantain top underneath it, which is a free pattern. And that combination is so comfortable and great for anyone like me that needs those layers and needs to think about heat. So it's really, really comfortable. But I also like the shape of it because it kind of gives me more shape than I really have. The seam line from bodice to skirt is here, and that is really around my rib cage. My natural waistline is down here, and as I'm often saying, I have a fairly thick waist, which again is a fairly typical thing that happens with the joys of menopause. So because it creates the illusion of my waist being here, where I'm at my narrowest and then flaring out, it's definitely giving me an awful lot more shape than I really have. So, you know, I like that. Just going back to the colours in this print, because as I said, it's just absolutely jam-packed with all the colours that work with my colouring, red and orange and teal and the petrol blue and brown. And I'm so pleased. I keep reading things that are saying that brown is coming back in. And although I don't really think of myself as someone that follows trends, when something's been very out, like brown has been, you kind of puts you off, doesn't it? But brown really works for me, and I'm definitely keeping my eyes peeled if anyone sees any for some kind of browny sweater knits that I could perhaps make a cardigan, because I think that would work really well with it. But I did also see on their website at Lulou Designs, they had some of the sweater knit fabric that I've had before. I bought it before in a bluey grey colour and made a really long line cardigan out of it, but they have it now in the rust. So this I bought, and I bought it with the intention to make some kind of cardigan, some sort of knit. I'm not really sure yet what. I've got this that is ready to wear, and I think that colour wise works really well with the print, but I do feel, I don't know, tell me what you think, I feel like it would work better if it was cropped, just because the sort of faux waistline being cropped, I feel like that would be better if it were cropped. So I'm wondering whether I should make a cropped version of the Itch to Stitch cardigan that I talked about in my autumn plans. I think it's called the Lisbon cardigan. So I'm considering doing that, so I get this kind of effect, but out of that fabric. I've got quite a few things that will work with it. I've also got my oiled wool coat that I made recently in my collaboration with Kristen. That was my last video, it feels like ages ago. So yeah, I mean, when I get to wear this in the winter, that was going to happen, wasn't it? When I wear this in the winter with tights and boots, I think this would work really well. I've also got this petrol blue leather biker jacket. Obviously I didn't make this. Can you imagine if I could make leather jackets? That would be amazing. So I can see me wearing that when I wear it in the winter with tights or leggings and boots and that sort of thing. So it is a Style Arc pattern, and as anybody that's worked with any Style Arc patterns knows, the biggest downside is the instructions. They are pretty minimal. I have always found that there is enough information. They tend to have a couple of diagrams, but that's about it, and then the instructions are pretty much just written bullet points. Possibly because when I learned to sew, I kind of taught myself using Burda style magazines. They're even worse. But I do find that there's enough information, but they're definitely not instructions that are going to hold your hands all the way through like you get with a lot of independent pattern designers. They also don't have a lay plan, and I can see why. I think a lot of the time none of us use the lay plans, and I'm sure it takes time and effort to produce them, especially because you have different fabric widths and different sizes. So I can see why they don't do it, and most of the time it's not really a problem, but I really did struggle with this to get the pattern pieces to fit on the fabric, and I did have the right amount of fabric that was listed in the fabric requirements. In the end, I had to use my sleeve pieces upside down, but I think with this print it is busy enough that I don't suppose anybody is going to notice that some things are pointing that way instead of that way. Tell me what you think. Can you see that? I don't know that you can. I did want to pattern match the centre front, and I managed to do that with the skirt front, but I didn't manage to do it with the bodice. Again, just in terms of being able to get the pattern pieces out of the fabric. And I suppose, to be fair, if you are trying to pattern match, you should normally allow for a little bit of extra fabric, so that's not, can't really criticise them for that. And in terms of construction, I did change a couple of things. So what I think I'll do is do some close-ups and have a look at the detail on the inside. The bodice is nice and simple, it's button up front. It really was just fortuitous that I ended up with this feather effect on the front here, because I really was just cutting the pieces out as I was able to within the fabric. But there are no darts as such on the front here, except that there are gathers here on the waist underneath the bust, and those gathers are doing the same thing that a dart would do, so they're creating shaping there, obviously on both sides. And you've also got the same gathering on the back here at the waistline and here. On the sleeve you have a turned up cuff. I might have to do a little stitch there. I think I can see that coming down. It is stitched on the inside on the seam there, bit of a stitch in the ditch, but I can see that wants to come down, so I might have to do some kind of hidden stitching there. But remember I said that the fabric is actually the wrong way round on the sleeves, so that feather is pointing downwards, whereas in fact it should be pointing up. But you know, I really think I can get away with that quite easily. The collar is nice and easy to construct. You really are just making a collar and sandwiching it in between the front and the facing. I'm going to turn it inside out in a minute so you can see the facing. So that's a really nice, easy, that's about as easy as it gets really as collars go. So let me show you the pattern matching on the centre front here. I'm pretty pleased with how I did with the pattern matching there. It's never going to be absolutely perfect with something as drapey as a viscose, so if it's not absolutely spot on all the way down, I'm not too bothered about that, to be honest. It's definitely good enough, I think. And I do think that I get away with the front, you know, especially with this piece here. I think that works okay. So I thought I would show you the inside of the dress because I did change a couple of things in terms of the construction. The main one being that I used French seams. And I did that just because, as I said, I love the fabric and I love the design. So I really want the dress to be as strong and as durable as possible. And I just wanted to treat it a little bit special. I feel like French seams are a really nice way to finish something, so that when you do see inside the garment, when you know a bit of leg pokes out, you're not seeing sort of overlocking on the seams and on the facing. So that's the facing piece, and on the facing I did some binding. I did use the dreadful sew-on interfacing, which, as you know, I don't particularly like. But I made my own binding and then I bound the edges rather than just overlocking them. I could perhaps have just turned them under, but I didn't want to risk it being sort of messy on the curves, so I decided to just bind it. And the thing to bear in mind with these French seams is that there is only 1 centimetre seam allowance. So I made a size 14 and I'm sort of probably more like a size 12 with Style Arc. So I knew I had a little bit of leeway. My first seam, so when I sewed it with the wrong sides together, I made that seam very, very small, literally as small as I could possibly get away with. And then when I turned it so that it was right sides together, as you can see, it's actually just shy of 1 centimetre, and that's what I did throughout. So the other thing I had to take into consideration was that there are 10 buttons and therefore 10 buttonholes. These are Atelier Brunette buttons, and as you can see they're a contrasting colour, which I think works really well. I have to be honest, the ladies at Lulou Designs sent those with it. I just asked for some that would go with, so I can't claim the credit for the brilliant contrasting colour, the matching, but it does work really, really well. I used the method with the buttonholes where you use some water-soluble stabiliser, and I have found that to work really, really well. So you just place it underneath the buttonhole when you're sewing it. As soon as I finish sewing the buttonhole, I rip off as much as I can, and then, as it says, it's water soluble, so sometimes I just spray it with my water spray from my iron and it will literally disintegrate and disappear. I thought I'd also show you the pocket. So that's the pocket there. So what I did was, because obviously I've got French seams, so what I did was I attached each pocket piece onto each side panel, just along here, using a French seam, so in the same old way, so doing wrong sides together, trimming the seam down, turning it over, and then right sides together. So, and then I took each side piece as one continuous piece for the remainder, for attaching the 2 side panels together. So I just sewed down here, as you can see, and then around and then down again. And I just feel that not only does it look neater, should you get a glimpse on the inside, it also feels a bit stronger. Obviously Viscose is lovely and drapey and lightweight, but you don't really want to be putting anything too heavy in those pockets. It's not really designed for that. It's not perfect, but I did choose to have a very narrow hem. That's only because I like dresses to be long, so I wanted it to be as long as possible. All in all, it's a case of sorry, but not sorry really, that I'm showing you something I've made before, but I just couldn't resist. You know, when you are so much in love with the design of fabric and the colours, you want to make something that you know works and fits and is going to get worn all the time, and that is definitely what I've made here. I'm absolutely desperate to get cracking on sewing some more items for autumn. I've got so many plans, as you know. I've got lots of fabric to get going with, so I will be back very soon. In the meantime, before I go, just wanted to mention a couple of other sewing vlogs that you might want to check out. One is an oldie but a goodie. She's back, just in case you don't know of her. JJ, who is the Candle Stitch. She was a really good, prolific vlogger. She has a fabulous, quirky style. She's pretty no nonsense. Her reviews are always absolutely honest, brutally honest sometimes, but she's a fabulous member of the sewing community, and she hasn't been feeling great for quite a few months now, so she's taken a break from vlogging. But this week she's back doing her flick through Burda magazine. So if you have watched her before but didn't realise she's back, go and find her. And if you don't know of her, she's definitely worth going and checking out, because yeah, she's lovely. And the other person I really wanted to mention is Esther, who is NineToStitch. Esther is based up here in Manchester. She came to the Manchester Sewing Bee that I organised in February. She is an incredibly glamorous lady. She's got a fabulous eye for colour. She's way more girly and yeah, glamorous, I guess is the word for Esther. Way more glamorous than I am. But she's recently started her own YouTube channel, and I'm sure she'd appreciate your support if you want to go and check her out. So I'll also put her details in the description box below. So thank you very much for watching. If you're new to this channel or you haven't subscribed before, I really would appreciate it if you would subscribe. It makes a really big difference to me. It means that my videos get seen more often and makes it feel like it's all worthwhile. So thank you very much. You can always find me on Instagram as well, Alex Judge Sews, and I will be back very soon. Thanks a lot. Bye.